For nearly a century, the US dollar has been the backbone of the global economy, powering trade, securing investments, and symbolizing stability. But today, cracks are forming in this foundation. Countries across the globe are moving away from the dollar. Why? Because they see the writing on the wall. They're building a new financial order, one that no longer depends on the West. Let's take a closer look at the forces at play, the decisions being made, and how this could forever alter global power dynamics. Enter BRICS: Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Together, these nations represent over 40% of the global population and 25% of the world's GDP. In recent years, they've been systematically challenging the dominance of the US dollar. Take the BRICS-led New Development Bank, for instance. Unlike the World Bank or IMF, this institution doesn't rely on the dollar. Instead, it promotes loans in local currencies, sidestepping the dollar's grip entirely. One key example is China's Belt and Road Initiative. Countries participating in this trillion-dollar infrastructure project are increasingly settling trade in the Chinese yuan. Deals between Russia and China now bypass the dollar completely, with energy trade, once dominated by petrodollars, being conducted in rubles and yuan. This isn't a small shift, it's a tectonic one. Russia, long seen as isolated due to Western sanctions, has turned adversity into strategy. Following the invasion of Ukraine, the West imposed sweeping economic sanctions, cutting Russia off from SWIFT and freezing hundreds of billions in foreign reserves. Yet, what happened? The ruble didn't collapse. In fact, it strengthened, pegged partially to gold and buoyed by demand for Russian energy. Take India's oil purchases from Russia as an example. Despite Western disapproval, India ramped up imports, paying in rupees and rubles rather than dollars. This move not only defied Western pressure, but also weakened the dollar's role as the intermediary currency in global trade. While the world shifts, the United States is grappling with its own vulnerabilities. Decades of unchecked spending have ballooned its national debt to over $33 trillion. The Federal Reserve's reliance on printing money, quantitative easing during the 2008 financial crisis, and the pandemic has devalued the dollar. Inflation soared to 40-year highs in 2022, eroding confidence in the currency. Take a closer look at de-dollarization efforts. Nations like Saudi Arabia, historically staunch allies of the US, are now engaging in direct trade agreements with China and Russia. For instance, Saudi Arabia recently signaled a willingness to accept yuan for oil, a move unthinkable just a decade ago. And Europe, once a steadfast ally of the US, it's facing its own set of crises. After cutting off Russian energy amid the Ukraine war, Europe found itself in an energy crisis, forced to import expensive LNG from the US and other sources. This shift has strained European economies, with countries like Germany seeing declining industrial output. Meanwhile, the euro struggles to maintain parity with the dollar, as Europe's reliance on external energy supplies exposes its vulnerabilities. While Washington champions sanctions and unity, Europe bears the brunt, watching its manufacturing sector falter while the dollar remains temporarily insulated. Amidst the chaos, India and other global South nations are emerging as key players. India, for instance, has embraced strategic neutrality, maintaining trade relations with both the West and Russia. It has signed agreements to settle trade in rupees with multiple nations, from the UAE to Sri Lanka. The Reserve Bank of India has even set up mechanisms for international trade settlements in rupees, reducing dependence on the dollar. This model is being closely watched and adopted by other emerging economies, further chipping away at dollar hegemony. While fiat currencies wobble, gold is making a comeback. Central banks worldwide have been stockpiling gold at record levels. China, for instance, increased its gold reserves by over 100 tons in 2023 alone. And it's not just gold. Digital currencies are reshaping the financial landscape. Russia and China are testing central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, to bypass Western-controlled payment systems like SWIFT. These innovations allow for direct, secure international transactions, reducing the dollar's influence even further. So, what caused this global shift? Was it just about economic mismanagement in the US, or did something deeper trigger the unraveling of dominance? Nations once dependent on American financial systems are now asking a crucial question. Why rely on a currency tied to a declining superpower? When countries like Russia, China, and India prove alternatives are not only possible but beneficial, others follow. The West, distracted by internal divisions and overconfidence, seems ill-prepared for this shift. Is this the end of U.S. global dominance? Or can Washington adapt before it's too late? The decline of the dollar isn't just about economics. It's a story of shifting alliances, resilience, and innovation. The question now is not if the dollar's dominance will end, but when and who will lead the world into its next chapter. The U.S. once held the keys to global stability, but as the world looks eastward, its place in history is being rewritten. History belongs to those who adapt, and right now the West is running out of time.